This is the story perhaps of the summer, maybe even of the year. The US government is going after Tornado Cash. Tornado Cash is a mixer for cryptocurrencies, specifically Ethereum. It enables you to move Ethereum from one wallet to another and break the transaction history between the two. It's a very important tool within crypto because it allows for privacy for almost any user, but also allows for privacy for big hacks and exchanges to obfuscate what they're trying to do with their transactions, right? North Korea has used Tornado Cash in the past, specifically for the Ronin hack, where they laundered about $200 million worth of hacked ETH, and they've been pumping a lot of ETH through this mechanism for the last few months. It's a huge deal now that a lot of people can't use this bridge because the OFAC sanctions will hurt anybody who's going against them and is going to continue using this. Wendy, I want to throw this one up to you. This is, again, one of the bigger stories I think we're going to talk about this year. What does it mean for privacy, and what does it mean for the average user who maybe even has funds on Tornado Cash?
So this is a very, 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 very problematic thing. And I have to put my tinfoil hat on for a little bit and kind of talk about it. So we do know that there's illicit activity that happens. It happens with cash. It could happen with Bitcoin. It could happen when you're bartering. It happens no matter what. So I understand that they want to instill some sort of regulation to stop this bad behavior. But at the same time, crypto, Bitcoin, Ethereum, whatever type of cryptocurrency, it was essentially created for privacy to keep people safe, to keep people private, so they don't have to share all of their data in some aspect. And one of the things that I'm thinking about is that this could have been done because we're having all this drama with all these different crypto exchanges becoming insolvent, filing for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. Maybe they're utilizing this to kind of instill some sort of new law to aid in those cases. But the bigger picture that I'm looking at is a CBDC. We know that we're supposed to have some sort of CBDC in the United States. And we were told that this was going to happen during the panorama to help facilitate payments to people. But what if they're putting this law out or this ban out to kind of manipulate what is happening with the CBDC to come up with some sort of protocol, some sort of creative way where they can potentially hide their tracks? Because we all know that the government, especially the United States of America, they don't spend money the way that they're supposed to. They keep printing money, they keep sending it places, we keep introducing all of these brand new tactics, etc. So maybe they're doing this to, in fact, kind of cover their tracks and then release the CBDC. This is just speculation, just my opinion, but privacy is very, very important, especially to the average person. And a lot of people, especially on my TikTok, they're like, this is good. We don't like hackers. It's for bad people. And I'm thinking to myself, what about survivors? What about somebody that is in a particular area or region that is getting oppressed, like somebody that goes to a 9-to-5 job and they say, we don't like you. We're going to go ahead and put a freeze on your bank and take your funds. So there's a lot of different arguments for and against this. But at the same time, I'm looking at the bigger picture and it's just not sitting right with me.
I wonder how blacklisting a service for U.S. citizens is going to stop North Korean hackers from using a product. So to me, this doesn't sound like a national security play, which is mentioned time and time again in the announcement. Wendy, Will, I completely agree with you. It sounds like a play against privacy. And Wendy, I just want to take what you were saying even further. I think a lot of people see this and they say, this is good. We need to stop the criminals. We need to stop the hackers because we don't want platforms and people to lose money to the tune of $600 million. But when we think about privacy, I challenge people to think outside of the very safe bubble that a lot of us live in and think about, I think something that we could all relate to in the United States is think about if you live in a red state and you need access to an abortion, somewhere along that journey, you might want a transaction you make to be private. And this is something that can enable it. So this is just a huge knock against privacy and a really sad story to start the day off on. Zach, what did you think?
Yeah, I think it's going to be really interesting to see the privacy conversation ramp up, right? The privacy conversation is no longer just about privacy coins. It's about zero knowledge proofs, right? Cryptographic technology that lets you verify what's in a transaction without knowing the contents of that transaction. Stuff like that has been talked about in terms of scaling and making these networks support more transactions. Now I think the conversation is going to shift toward, okay, those are some privacy features that we can do in a compliant manner that will foster mainstream adoption so that the world doesn't have to know that I'm spending $10 on, I don't know, porn or something, right? So the idea here is that there should be a right to privacy online, just as there is a right to privacy in other aspects of our lives. And yet, I think we're seeing the increasing surveillance of the financial system. And that has privacy advocates worried, right? This is something that I think, Naomi Rockwell, Ben Powers would be harping on pretty loudly right now, right? That there should be a right to financial privacy as it relates to online commerce, especially in peer-to-peer internet commerce. That's what crypto is all about, right? So the idea that this is now increasingly under attack is a little bit scary to folks. Flip side, like Tornado has laundered a lot of shady funds in the past, right? So like it puts them square in the crosshairs. They are the ones who are going to be the canary in this coal mine. But the bigger picture I think is really important. And it is something that people are going to get loud about in terms of thinking how to work these issues out so that the prospect of online native currency can exist in a way that is private by default, but not criminally so, right? Privacy is not a crime. And I think that's worth repeating here as OFAC takes a very broad-handed approach to cracking down on some of these tools. Will, your thoughts?
Honestly, we could do the whole show on just this one topic because there's so many threads to pull on. The one I want to zero in on right now, though, is the conversation between cryptocurrencies and privacy coins. A lot of people refer to cryptocurrencies and using them for just basic transactions like Bitcoin or Ethereum, but they don't have a lot of those privacy builds into them, right? You can send a Bitcoin transaction, but you can basically find most of the information about it pretty easily. And if you really know how to do some nice sleuthing, you can find the IP addresses and therefore the physical locations of the people who sent that money on Bitcoin or Ethereum. So that's why Bitcoin and Ethereum have turned to different transaction mechanisms using dApps or applications like blenders and mixers in order to send Bitcoin privately, or they use wallets like Samurai or Wasabi to send Bitcoin privately. But a lot of these things have problems, right? And so a lot of people saw this coming alongside, and that's why they invented privacy coins like Monero or Zcash. And I think when you look at this picture and you're seeing these applications that are used for laundering or used for mixing or used just for basic privacy being censored, then the reality of the point of a privacy coin actually becomes tangible. And all those crazy people out there who were saying that privacy coins mattered for years, they're slowly becoming vindicated more and more. The flip side, however, is what if privacy coins didn't really get out into mainstream adoption and then they get stifled and squelched in the bed as well? Zach, back to you.
Yeah, it is pretty remarkable just to think that this is the blacklisting of a tool, not a particular bad actor, right? This is the blacklisting of an open source software tool. So this is sort of a new frontier in how U.S. regulators are approaching some of these things, right? I mean, they're couching it in the terms of, okay, North Korea used this to like launder a bunch of funds. Okay, we're going to take action against it. But typically, these are sanctioned individuals, right? There's someone who commits a bad action that is meant to be dissuaded from occurring again. And those are the people who end up on these lists. But this is actually just like a tool, right? Like a neutral technology that can be used any number of ways, from someone who, wants to send $20 to their friend, for the beer that they just bought, or, wants to, again, launder funds after hacking a major protocol in the crypto space at the nation state level. So it is odd that I think that this open source code is now the target of this enforcement action rather than any particular individual users who may have used it to do bad stuff. So that to me is interesting. And I think a lot of people are really homing in on that particular distinction here in this action as something that is odd, new, and potentially has quite big ramifications. But Wendy, over to you.
I just want to say, I feel like it's easier for the government to just shut it all down, just to say, no, you can't do this, instead of actually understanding how this works and maybe coming in and saying, hey, you know what, you can use this feature, and this feature, but not this feature. And we know that they're tracking things anyways on the blockchain. So it's very problematic, the fact that they just stepped in and they just completely says, no, you can't use it. And kind of back to Jen's point, it's not, how is this going to impact people that are doing bad things outside of the United States? That doesn't make any sense to me any way, shape, or form, because there's like people outside of the United States of America can still do stuff very, very easily. So basically what it's doing, it's just kind of it's basically saying, you're in trouble for what your big brother is doing over here. We're taking away your privileges. But people are going to get creative. They're going to find other ways to kind of work around this, whether it be privacy coins, whether it be coming up with a brand new protocol, et cetera. So it's just a very, very problematic, oppressive behavior in my personal opinion.